Hello, everyone. Welcome to a bonus edition of Locked On Guardians. We are going to do a little bit more here, not a full episode. We're going to handle the 6 picks that were not covered in the first part of the show. So tune in, find out some more, have some fun with me on some bonus content for Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, it's the bonus edition of Locked On Guardians. Some extra content and some extra work. I'm going to try to do some background work while trying to not get my earbuds ripped out by my cat. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeff Ellis, the host of Locked On Guardians. I really hope if you missed the first half, there's really no point to be tuning in right now. So go catch the first half. At the 6:10 mark, we start the mock after I discuss some of the news of the day. Specifically as relates to the Cleveland Guardians. And I'm doing 6 more picks here because while, yes, on draft night, I do the last 3 years, I've done the MLB draft for Locked On. I'm sure I will do it again for them this year. This is still Locked On Guardians. So we're just going to go through the Guardians picks so I can upload everything in a nice way. Again, make sure you comment below things you like, you didn't like. And thank you all for watching, especially those of you who are not everyday listeners or people who are just joining in because you want this type of content. And it's sometimes hard to find this type of content out there. So I appreciate all of you. If it's your first show, if it's your 100th show, if it's your 1000th show, if you're one of those, definitely let me know if you're one of those. But thank you all for joining me. And without further ado, again, don't start at this point. Go join the last one and then come here and check out part 2. But I have the 31st pick queued up. I actually have it all written out in my handy dandy book here. Worked on it last night. It's not to say that I am not tempted to change picks all the time and didn't change right before I was recording. But 31, we have Arizona who gets this pick for the Corbin Carroll winning Rookie of the Year. Ben Hess is an interesting arm, the Alabama pitcher. Control hasn't been as strong as it was a year ago. I think if he was really having those control numbers and some of the command numbers he showed a year ago, he'd be off the board already. But he is still on the board. Arizona could, I think, use more pitching in their system. I am taking the super athletic, hard-hitting Dakota Jordan with their previous pick. Here's the thing. Typically, someone slides. I don't love the depth in this class. I don't know if someone can slide, but Arizona's got the picks to be in a situation where if someone slides, keep an eye on Arizona because they can make things happen. It's kind of an interesting position. They're one of the teams that really control the draft just due to the sheer number of picks they have. I would say the same thing about the next pick, Baltimore, but they traded away one of those selections for Corbin Burns, but that means they'll get probably a first rounder next year for it. So it's more of delayed gratification, which could also be because it's not a great class. So there's some logic in that as well. But for Baltimore, they like bats. They like power. And I get it, too, because power is the hardest thing to get. It's the hardest thing to add. It's one of the hardest things to find. It's expensive. So keep swinging on guys like Jude Fabian, who didn't have the best year, but has good power. Creed Williams was a guy they paid a lot of money to, who is a good power guy. Carson DeMartini is from Virginia Tech, has some really good batted ball power numbers, and it's a team that is college focused and hitter focused, and looking at those two and looking for those like power potential guys, DeMartini kind of stood out to me at this point. The Twins are up next, and this is one that'll annoy. And by the way, that Baltimore pick was for Henderson winning Rookie of the Year. Twins pick is compensation for Sonny Gray, and this is one that Justin will hate, my co-host. But Dylan Drayling from Tennessee is moving up boards. He is hitting lefties this year after being clueless against them a year ago. He is hitting for power. He's hitting for everything's trending upwards on him. Honestly, he probably should be higher than this, and I think he is that guy. We'll see how it goes for him. It kind of reminds me of Colton Ledbetter a year ago, where the non-conference season really made him pop. So I think Drayling is a guy who is moving up and people need to pay more attention to. Twins, I think, would like him. I think him being there and after taking the risk on a interesting prep arm early, then come back and take the rising college outfielder. Probably a corner guy, which is also, a little bit of a negative. But again, Drailing is just extremely solid. Milwaukee Brewers. Last year, they did take a prep arm at this point. Prep class just is not as inviting. Levi Sterling is interesting. Another guy who's pretty young for the class. Anthony Silva is someone that I think people thought would go be off the board by now. And a lot of my early mocks, he was, a guy who's going in the teens. Just not the case for me now. This is not a knock on him by any means. I think people were hoping to see a little more explosion with his data this year, and that hasn't been as much the case. Sorry if my computer just made a loud noise. But he's still a no doubt shortstop, best defensive shortstop in the college group amongst kind of guys who are close to that first round. Interesting player, good contact, good batted ball. And that is the pick the Brewers got in the Corbin Burns deal that was originally Baltimore's. So next up, you have Arizona, and we had him go Ben Hess, the righty, had him take Dakota Jordan, the power hitting outfielder. They went more college a year ago, and again, at this point in the draft, I feel like I trust the college a little bit more. I always trust college more than prep, but the prep class is definitely a little bit weaker this year. Jonathan Santucci, it's been a little up and down. I feel like I say that every year about top Duke prospects, unfortunately. But he's an interesting lefty who's missing a ton of bats. Command data hasn't been great, but he's been able to strike out some of the best hitters in college baseball. A good lefty, could go higher than this. Most places have him in the top 30, so this is a good value. So who's Cleveland take? So I've really gone back and forth. At one point, I had Hess written down here. I thought about James Tibbs, who's someone I really like as well. I think James Tibbs is someone they would like, the Florida State player. I don't know if you can hope on a Tibbs falling to them. In the second round, he's not the most athletic. He might be first base, outfield only, but James Tibbs, right now he's got a 15% walk rate and a 7.5% strikeout rate. Dude struck out. Let's see what he's up to. He had a bad weekend. He struck out twice. He's got 6 strikeouts. Vance Honeycutt had 6 strikeouts last weekend. He's had 6 all year in 67 at-bats. 403, 48, 896, 8 home runs, had 17 home runs a year ago. One of the league leaders, was really good on the Cape as well. He turned 21 in October, so he's a little bit on the older side relative to his draft class. Not like super old, but just... and the other guy I was looking at then is Billy Amchek, who was a Clemson transfer, who went Clemson to Tennessee and hits the ball hard, doesn't pull it enough. Like, he's a guy who maybe you work on him, unlock even more power, but like he hits the absolute snot out of the ball. Tibbs is a lefty, Amek's a righty. I believe they're about the same height. Both are bat first types. More swing and miss with Amek, but the thing with him was a year ago he wasn't walking at all. Like, he has cut down on his Ks, well, just a little bit. It's basically the same K rate, if we're being honest, while increasing his walk rate, nearly doubling it. And he had 13 home runs a year ago. He's already at 9. Really good contact data. He had a short sample on the Cape, but he, in those 38 at-bats, was just unbelievable. Had an OPS over 1. That's how good he was. So I think I'm leaning weirdly towards him. I think he's got less position flexibility. He might be first base only. Maybe it's just me being blind. And by the way, he's a November birth date. I think they're like, okay, so October 1st and November 4th. They're like a little more than a month apart. But you're looking at kind of similar profiles. Is it crazy to lean towards right-handed because it's lack of depth in the system? And I'm very curious to see what he does in the SEC this year. The ACC is the second best conference. SEC is slightly better, so I kind of want to see what Billy Amek's going to do. Really like both those guys, and that's who I debated there. If I look at draft order, with Pittsburgh being next, I feel like I would probably want to go with one of the prep guys. I know I said I wasn't going to go deeper, but if I'm just looking at the list, it's like maybe the team that pops to Levi Sterling. Tegan Coons is, I know, very popular. Griff Farrell, someone who, if they want to go prep, I mean, like I said, if I'm probably doing it, I probably have them go. I'd really have to look and be like, who's the, maybe I have him take Shields, the local kid who's the quarterback two-way guy, David Shields, right? Is it? I'm going to look bad. I'm not always the best with names. For those who know Locked On Guardians know I tend to have name issues. That is just who I am. But yeah, he would make sense with them. Just give a little more content, finish off maybe these other picks. So if I give him the local kid, and I believe it's David Shields. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Then after that, you're looking at Colorado, who tends to be more of a college heavy team. If Griff O'Farrell, they like power, but I think Griff O'Farrell is kind of the next guy up. It's him or it's Kalen Culpepper, typically the Kansas State shortstop. And then Kansas City at 39. I had them taking Nick Kurtz. It's like, do you keep faking it till you making it? Do they keep trying to make a pitcher work? It's like Luke Holman is probably the top guy left from the college ranks. Depending, it's always up for debate. Thatcher Hurd, pick your LSU arm, basically. And then there's that part of me that goes, oh, Culpepper's just a good value. He's kind of a, plays at Kansas State. I feel like he would logically make sense here as a potential up the middle player. See, I'm going too much. See, I can't stop myself. It's like a problem, and there's the thing. I really haven't sat down and spent the time recently on the second round picks to see, who would be sliding here. This is Locked On Guardians. So like to say, like, who am I kind of viewing in that, like, Gage Jump? I think he's almost been entirely a reliever. He's been hurt so much, but he'd be an interesting guy with Cleveland coming up in that second round. If they wanted to go prep pitcher for Cleveland, like Ryan Sloan from New York probably stands out. I already mentioned Tegan Coons, who's Pennsylvania. I'm trying to think who else is really someone who's popped. Who's the Kansas kid? Siebert. I don't remember his first name. I'll have to do my research. Even someone like Derek Curiel, who could be expensive, but was one of those guys who's, Brenner first round rumor. I think JD Dix, who's a local kid in my backyard, makes some sense as well. And then a lot of people really like Charlie Bates. And I mean, honestly, a guy I would watch for Cleveland in round 2, and the guy I would actually predict to them is Boston Bateman. They love California. They went with a big lefty a year ago. Bateman is 6'7", 250. More of a two-pitch guy right now, but people love the makeup. He's got big velocity, big kid. Get him a third pitch, and he is going to be awesome. Work ethic is there. That's the guy I'd really watch for with that second pick. So Bazana, Tibbs or Amick, and then Boston Bateman round 2. If not him, then Ethan Schiffelbein is the other California prep arm who could potentially be there. Same high school as the guy they got from the Mets. I know, just scintillating conversation. Isaiah Green. Same high school as Isaiah Green. But I think they have a rich history with California. I'd pay attention to them as well as like someone like Charlie Bates, who's a shortstop from the area. But I feel like that second round, if Dante Nori wasn't like already 19, the Michigan kid, I would also bring him up as he does a lot of things they like. But they sometimes go against it. But that's the fun of the first overall pick. They'll have the ability to go and get some guys. And this is where I kind of like the second round. It's a weird thing. I feel like picks 20 through about 40 are a little weaker than most years. And then it starts to open up again and kind of be back to normal, where there's good depth for the next few rounds. And I'll just throw this out there. If you want to just go full out, fun to watch, check out Aiden Harris, Guardians fans. Big, maybe the best right-handed power in the high school group. If you want big right-handed power, go check out Aiden Harris. That's going to be the guy to go look at, as well as some of the other names. But I hope all of you who are watching, no matter your team, I hope your team does well in the draft. I hope you've learned a little something. I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. Comment below. I always respond to comments. I will respond to your comments. I will answer questions as long as they're not full of swears. I will respond. But really, thank you for tuning in. No matter who your team is, you love baseball, you love the draft. That makes you my people. Thank you again for joining us, having some fun, and taking part in the show. I really appreciate that. And I'll end it how I end every show, even on a bonus shorty like this. Go, Guardians, go.